know how good that choir is going to be. Concert is just, a whole night of awesome music. We sure want to see you there. Yeah, really good. Okay, I'm getting it together here. Just a minute. All right, there's this story about this dad on a brutally hot day, which we've had a few of those this week. He was, as I walked, this guy says, on a brutally hot day, as I walked by a miniature golf course, he saw a dad following 3 small children from hole to hole. "Who's winning?" I shouted. "I am," said one kid. "Me," said the other kid. "No, me," yelled the third. Dripping sweat from his face, the dad gasped, "Their mother is." Sometimes dads, go to such amazing lengths to help their kids, to help them fix a problem or solve something. I know when my first husband and I built a thermo envelope house, which was had a solar collector and all of that on it. My dad came up from Oregon, where he lived, and stayed with us for 6 months and helped us build everything. And he was this amazing cabinet builder. And so we had custom cabinets in the whole kitchen made out of this beautiful blued pine, which is a pine that had actually got this disease that kind of turned it gray. So it had gray streaks through it. It was just amazing. And he made me the very best butcher block topped island you could ever imagine. And it was his gift to me, and it was also my gift to him to get to spend so much time together at what ended up to be very close to the end of his life. And it was really interesting with my dad because he never thought he'd be a father. In fact, I've told you before, during World War II, he was taken off one of the South Pacific islands, weighing less than 90 pounds, and he was a 6'2" big Marine when he left, And because of that, they told him he probably wouldn't ever have children. And lo and behold, 3 of us got born, so it was kind of a shock to him, and it wasn't a role that he wanted, really, I don't think. But when he got into it, he was the best dad ever. And I'll tell you the times he got into it. You could always count on my dad to make every vacation amazing. He would tell us kind of where we were going, but there were so many surprises and things he pre-planned along the way. We never knew what was going to happen. And I remember one time we went into Oregon. This was the year that I turned 18. And we all, went camping in Oregon. And he had this whole horse pack trip planned that he didn't tell us about. And we got up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and got on horses and rode them up the mountain to probably about 6,000-7,000 feet, because there was still snowpack up there, and this was around June 30th, So it was amazing. But we were at this lake where you just kind of threw your hook in, and a fish jumped on it by itself, and you just brought it out. It was like, whoa, there were so many fish in there. I thought, now they must stock this thing. And no, that's it. They just reproduce. And so, he did things like that. And another time, we were heading to go camping, and we were we went over to the border between Washington and Idaho. I don't know if you guys we don't have a hand signal for Idaho, but what Idaho is kind of like this, because it's like a square, and then it has this little peninsula that goes up in between Washington, and there's this little small stretch of Idaho, and then you go into another state, Montana, I think. Yeah, Montana. So anyway, we're going over there, and we're not, we're all going camping. We all love to go camping, so we're all going camping. We're all excited about it. And we show up at this campground, and it was not the usual campground that we usually went to. It was like, usually we went to national parks, and they were kind of rugged, and outhouses, and, that whole thing. Dad was very, lived in the woods a lot of the summers of his life. From the time he was 12 on, he took off the day school was over and didn't come back till the day school was going to start again. And hunted and, fed himself from the land. Had lots of stories about that, too. But we came into this, it was owned by the electric company campground. And I thought, oh, that's odd, and we pulled in and we had our campers and we set up. And the next morning he says, I'm getting you all up at, some ungodly hour. And I said, really? Because we did like to stay up late and sit around the campfire, And anyway, he did. He got us up. We got on these big pontoon boats. And it was the reservoir above Hell's Canyon. And the Snake River goes down into Hell's Canyon. And from this lake, you can get down into, on the side, you can get down into Hell's Canyon. Now, how many people have been to Hell's Canyon? Oh, good, I got one. Okay, you can keep me straight. You can keep me honest here. So Hell's Canyon is as deep as the Grand Canyon, but it's less than a mile wide. It's like going into the most, if you're claustrophobic, it's a sort of a very scary place to go. But it was like sheer rock walls up this way, sheer rock walls up the other way, and the river runs down the middle. And it's rare, but there is little beaches you can pull this rubber boat off into. And we pulled it off into this little beach. And we had the people that brought us on the boat trip brought sandwiches, and we ate. And then I fished. Now here's my only fishing story of my whole life. Someday maybe I'll add more to it. But I was fishing off this rock, and my dad's fishing advice was this: you have to think like a fish. So I was in this very zen place of thinking like a fish. And my pole took off. I got a hit. I reeled this thing in. It was the largest bass caught in the Snake River that whole year. So once you're at that pinnacle of fishermanship, you don't need to go back again. But he was great on vacation. He was great at Christmas. He was great at Thanksgiving. He was great at the holidays. He loved to be with people. He loved to laugh, and he loved to party, and he loved that whole thing. He just loved it. He was a fun guy to be around. And he collected people. When I was older and I had my kids were probably 6 and 8. We would go visit him, and he would be up at a gold mining camp. He got into gold mining then, and he was an inventor, and he invented gold mining machinery. And he was in the process of testing this latest invention, and we went up there, and he said, well, it's Tuesday. And I said, yeah, Dad, it is. And he says, Tuesdays I make my rounds. I said, you make your rounds? He goes, yeah. He says, there's some old people up here that don't have transportation, and if I don't bring them groceries, they don't eat. So we go to the grocery store, we load up with groceries, and he's got like 8 people that live, 100 miles, it seems like, from anything. I mean, I've never been that far up and thought people could live there, We got to this one old guy's house. His name was Harold A. Halt. And Harold had this barrel on his front porch, big, like pickle barrel from the old days with a wooden lid. And he starts in, Dad says, what's going on? What's happening? What's new? And he says, well, I'm telling you, I had an overbearing bear here. And my dad says, really? What happened? He says, well, this bear came up. He was probably 10 feet tall when he stood on his hind legs. And I kept hitting pans, and I kept doing all this stuff to try to chase him off, and he just kept coming. And he said, I did everything I thought. I slammed the door a few times, and he just kept coming. So finally, I had to shoot him. And Dad said, really? So what did you do with him? He says, he's in that barrel. He says, he's in that barrel, and I'm pickling him or something. I mean, he has some weird thing he was doing to him. Anyway, so Dad said, oh yeah, sure you did, because he knew this guy was all about tall tales, right? And so he says to my brother, who's a year older than me, he says, Steve, go over there and look in that barrel. Steve opened that thing up, and sure enough, there was a bear's head sticking up looking at him. And he dropped that thing and ran, you know. He'd never seen anything like that. But that, you know, that was my dad. My dad also loved to do practical jokes, you know, and he would, because Harold was kind of living on the edge and didn't, you know, needed some company. So he would take Harold with him, bring him down to his cabin in the town, you know. And, but he had 5 acres, and it was all, you know, nothing around him for a long, long time. And so he and Harold were at his house, and they were target practicing. He put up a target, and they were using their .22s, and they were target practicing, and And Harold says, well, I got to go use the restroom. And he heads in the house. And in, at that very moment, drive some Jehovah's Witnesses. And the Jehovah's Witnesses jump out of the car. And my dad put his gun down, you know. And he said, they said, we want to know if you've been saved, you know. And he says, oh, yeah, I'm saved. I'm so saved. My dad would never step in a church except for Unity after he left his home, his home. So he says, I'm so saved. I'm one with God. I know all about that. But I got a friend here. He's a real sinner. I'm telling you, he's a bad hombre. He's a bad hombre. And if you could convert him, you'd be doing something, you know. And so here comes Harold A. Holton. He's like 4'9". I mean, he's not a big guy with this great big gun. And he's walking out, okay, I'm ready, let's go, you know. And these two looked at the guy with the gun and jumped in their car and hightailed it out of there so fast. So as a public service, you know, that's one way to get rid of Jehovah's Witnesses if you don't want to get in a discussion. Now, I know we all have had different kinds of fathers, and fathers are not always perfect. If there is a perfect father here, please stand up. Okay, well, see, I can't do a demonstration on perfection then, but it's, there's times in all of our lives where our dads don't do it real well, and there's times when they do it better. And our hope is for us to understand that life is like a school. It's about learning. You know, one time I had a professor in college ask me, what does learning mean? What does it mean to learn something? And I said, well, you know, you get a book and you get some study questions and you look up the answers and you memorize them and then you take the test and it proves you learned something, right? And he said, no, that's not learning. That's memorizing. Learning is when you learn something at the depth of your being so that it changes the way you behave. Real learning means you change who you are in this area or that area. And so learning is a wonderful thing. We have a lot of obstacles in life set in our way because we haven't quite gotten the learning at a deep enough level. And so we keep doing the same things that don't work over and over. Now, my point in this is that it's easy to have some issues with a dad. A lot of people might have issues with a dad, or the way he behaved when you were growing up, or how he acted, or whatever. But the reality is that your dad, my dad, everybody's dad, was doing the best they could at their present level of awareness. And right now, where you sit right now, you are doing the best you can at your present level of awareness. John Lennon said something that I really love. He said, when I was in high school, they told me to write an essay on what I wanted to be. as an adult, and I wrote the word happy and turned it in. They said I didn't understand the assignment. I said they didn't understand life. Life is about learning how to live happily and to spread happiness wherever you go. To be funny, to be silly, to do stuff that just makes people smile. Life is like that. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. Now, my dad passed away probably 35 years ago, maybe more. And he, you know, all of us, there were some things that were dysfunctional, and a lot of them were had to do with his temper. I remember he had this scar across his forehead that was kind of like the one that Harry Potter has, right? He had one across his forehead, and when we were little, we used to say, "Dad, how'd you get that scar?" And every time he answered, it was a different story. I was surrounded by Indians, you know, or the bears were coming after me. He'd have all kinds of stories. And it wasn't until I was a grown-up that my mom said, "You know, your dad has a temper, and he got in fights when he was young." And he got scars from him. But, you know, we all have our things, you know. We all have a certain length fuse, and anybody can get angry if they're pushed far enough. Anybody can do it. The thing that sticks you and I in this now moment, in this present life, is when your dad has gone on to the next experience of life, and you never really cleared the air about some of that as an adult to an adult. Now, I did. I took care of my dad the last time he came up to see me for 3 months at my house, and he was having a, you know, stent put in, and, you know, all the kind of heart things that they do, or they did then. And we had a wonderful time together when he was there. And the last morning I saw him, I met him for breakfast at Denny's, you know, and that's what we did, and we had a great talk, and I cried because I had the feeling I wasn't going to see him again. And he said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "Because I'm just afraid I'm not going to see you again." And he kind of started to cry too, and then he said, "You know, Julie, I don't think I have that much longer on this planet, but I'm going to enjoy myself every minute of it." And I said, "That's what I want you to do." And, you know, sometimes in my family, my sister and my dad really didn't get along at all very good. Their personalities were way too much alike. I mean, really, she has a very short fuse, thinks she knows how to do everything, you know. And so did Dad. Dad have that, you know, I'm going to do step 1, then I'm going to do step 2. Do not talk to me about step 4. You know, I'm still on 2. You know, he's like that. He's methodical. And my sister and him didn't get along very well. And she carried around so much hurt from that relationship for so many years. She didn't really get clear of it until she really got deep into AA. And she finally started to bring those things up and forgive him. So I have a little process I want you to do with me today. How many people have dads that have moved on to the next eternal playground of life? Yeah, most of us. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine your dad. He put his hand up there.
Oh, sure. Scare me.
Yeah, your son's putting his hand up. Yeah, he's gone.
I don't know where he went.
That was great. That's good. That's something my dad would have done. Anyway, let's close our eyes, take a deep breath together, and I want you to image your father if he's gone on to the next life. If he's alive, I want you to still image your father. And if there's anything that's you're carrying around that hurt your feelings or you thought was unfair, or you didn't like the way it came out, I want you to just let it go for this moment, for this one moment. And what I want you to know is I am channeling your dad right now. If your dad's in that next world, he's in a world where he knows he has eternal life. He knows there is nothing to be afraid of. And he knows that you really can't do anything wrong because everything is for our growth and learning. And he wants you to know that too. And so I want you to imagine right now your dad standing in front of you like I'm imagining mine. And he's saying, Julie, I love you. Your dad is saying, I love you. Because when you're in the next experience of life, love is all that's real. That's all there is love. And then I want you to imagine your dad looking deep into your eyes and saying, I am sorry. I am sorry that I didn't do it perfectly all the time. I'm sorry that I got so afraid, that I reacted in anger or because of my fear. Now I know there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing that can harm us. We are eternal beings. We live in the very heart and field of unlimited potential for good. So your dad says, I'm sorry. I forgot who I was when I was on planet Earth for a while here and there. And then he says, please forgive me. Forgive me not because I need you to forgive me. Forgive me because you need to forgive me. You need to forgive me for anything you're still carrying around. Any time that you diminish a child of God, you are diminishing the Holy Spirit that is within him. So let us let go of our judgments, let go of our hurts, let go of our pain around our dad, and find that underneath all of that stuff is pure love. Pure love. And finally, your dad's saying to you, thank you. Thank you for freeing yourself. Thank you for not being a victim of the times it didn't work, but focusing on what was good, what was wonderful, and knowing that I love you. Thank you. And that's the way that we heal ourselves from any relationship that didn't work. And so when we honor our dads this year, let's honor our dads at a level where we absolutely know that they are free and we are free of any hurting, any upsets, anything that's happened in the past. It's not real anymore. The past is gone forever. And in this now moment, you can love your dad and know your dad loves you. And be happy that you are operating from a higher level of awareness in some cases because your dad gave you some lessons that you learned that changed you. All right. Honoring our fathers, honoring our grandfathers. Let's remember that when you do the work we just did, and you forgive your father or your grandfather or your mother or whoever it is, when you do that work, you free all of your ancestors from that issue. You know, the sins of the father, it says in the Bible, the sins of the father are revisited on the son. And what happens is we learn how to parent from our parents. So sometimes, you're going along and you think, wow, I'm doing pretty good at this parenting thing, and the next thing you know, you're sounding just like your mother, or just like your father, or whatever. Have you seen those Geico commercials where the woman's becoming the dad and man's becoming... Did these jeans make me look fat? Yes. That's hilarious. But if we do our internal forgiveness work, it's just funny. There isn't any truth to it for us anymore. Because this life is to be joyous. We finished our E squared, and I'm reading E cubed right now. And the best thing I've gotten out of it so far that I'm going to suggest you might consider is the first thought you have in the morning. If we could get conscious of the first thought we have in the morning and switch it from, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, or, oh, what do I got to do today, or whatever it is, to, I am going to have an awesome and amazing day, and wonderful things are going to happen to me today. If you could start with that idea, just start every morning with that idea, and then look for the awesome, look for the good, look for the amazing. Accept all the gifts given to you. It would make life really sweet. Let's try it, okay? Okay. Thank you very much. I'm so glad you're here. Fathers, we love you and appreciate you and think you're the most awesome dads on the planet, right in this room, right here, right now. You're amazing. So thanks for being with us, and happy Father's Day. God bless.